Trying to find my way, 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 trying to find my way. I'm trying, change me.
My faith is in God alone, beyond a reasonable doubt. This brainstorm pouring rain on your season of drought. Just trying to lay a couple seeds in the mouth. Thanks for listening. You ever get the feeling you was missing it?
What up, y'all? It's your hometown hero, Scott Lane, the Black Bruce Wayne, a.k.a. the real Adam Coleman. So, you riding with Tru-ID. And, yeah, man, so we got a special guest, man. I believe this is our first repeat guest here on the show. And so, you know, we're bringing him back for a special reason, man. This brother is a former Hebrew Israelite. Some of y'all, I'm sure, will remember him and are familiar with him from other apologetics outlets. And he just released a new album that I'm going to have him talk about. We're going to play some cuts from it, do things a little bit differently here today. And so I'm really excited about this interview, man. This brother has got a powerful testimony. And yeah, with that said, man, I'd like to introduce you to Brother Jay, a.k.a. Jay the Producer. How you doing there, man?
Yo, what's going on there, bro?
Doing real good, man. Doing real good. I tell you what, man, before we get with the interview, bro, I got to ask you a question, man. You're saying,
all right,
you're a former Hebrew Israelite, you know, you're doing this apologetics thing. And, you know, I know that the Hebrew Israelites is nice with that meme game, dog. You know what I'm saying? Their doctrine might be suspect, but their meme game is tough. Like, can you tell us about like the most, you got a good sense of humor. Tell us about the funniest meme that they've made about you since you left.
Man, they actually updated, man. They actually updated this meme. So they had one before, and then they basically polished my face up a little bit better and blended me into the picture a little bit better this time. So if anybody's seen the last Planet of the Apes movie, you know, in the movie you had those two main gorillas who turned on the ape clan. I forgot the one that was white, the white furred one, but then there was the other one named Donkey. So there's a scene in the movie where they got all the apes in like this prison, basically, and so the donkey is with the prison master or whatever, checking on all the apes. So they took that scene or whatever the case is, and they took vocab's face and put it on the military leader guy, and then Donkey was standing right behind him, and so they had my face blended into the donkey dude. So they actually have made that meme before. I saw it before, but man, they really polished my face up a little bit better to make it look like I'm actually in that monkey's body. So right. Yeah, man, that's probably the funniest one, man.
That's wild, man. Hey, man, salute to all the Hebrew Israelites out there, man. I'm telling you, like I said, the doctrine is off, but that meme game is nasty. You know what I'm saying? Apparently, you know, I haven't really, you know, made the meme Hall of Fame yet. I haven't made that list yet. I mean, I've seen some memes get made by like G-Cod and Vocab and you. I haven't attained that yet, bro. I'm still trying to get there, man. How can I make that list? I'm trying to get on the list, man.
Man, I don't know, man. I think the only, well, outside of vocab, you either got to be white or you got to be a former Black Hebrew Israelite to make the meme Hall of Fame. So, I haven't seen any regular residential blacks make the meme game yet.
I might I might become a Hebrew Israelite for like a day and then just deconvert. You know what I'm saying? So I can make the list.
Right.
But yeah, man. So, you know, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, you know, you come out of the Hebrew Israelite movement. You know, God is really moving in your life, and people can actually, you know, go to a previous show that we did here at Tru-ID where you talked about your journey and coming out of the Hebrew Israelite camp. I believe it was IUIC, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah, IUIC, right. You know, it seemed like, man, like the very next day, like you was doing apologetics, bro. Like you just took the fringes off, and then the next day you was on there with Faithful to God, getting it in for the gospel, man. So, you know, tell us a little bit about that. You know, how have things been from the time you left the Hebrew Israelite movement up until now, man? Bring us up to speed a little bit.
All right, man. I think that illusion in terms of it seemed like I had on, you know, I was a Black Hebrew Israelite one day, apologetics the next day. That's probably why they say I was a paid agent.
Oh yeah.
But
right.
Yeah, so it definitely gives that illusion. But you know, it was definitely some months span there in between. You know, obviously, you know, some months after I was already been out, you know, for some months before I even did that first interview with you. And after that, you know, people started reaching out to me, want me to do different things, share my story, and then from there, I guess, you know, from the way I speak or whatever, kissing passionately or whatever, and obviously being a former member, knowing a lot of the breakdowns and the way they go about interpreting scriptures, the brothers and sisters over there with SOG, you know, at the time, is thought I would make a good addition to the team, so they, you know, wanted to see if I even thought about it. And so I prayed about it, whatever the case is, and they did a vote, and you know, and that was kind of history from there. But I think people get that illusion that one day one thing and the next day one thing, probably because of how consistent it's been since then. Yeah. Pretty much been nonstop, man. And so you know, a lot of things taking place. Obviously, the YouTube ministry with the Brother Faithful God and other brothers, then SOG, as well as you know, started my own page, Brother J, BROTHA, and the letter J. And of course, you know, obviously the music things that I've been doing. So, man, I've been pretty busy, man.
Yeah, sounds like it, man. Sounds like it. You know, that's a pretty big adjustment, man. Like, matter of fact, what would you say has been the biggest shift for you, or the biggest adjustment that you've had to make? You know, coming out of the Hebrew Israelite movement and now, you know, going full tilt for Christ, you know, ministering through apologetics and all that. What would you say has been the biggest adjustment?
Man, I think my biggest adjustment was mainly on the more on the, not physicality, this ain't a sport, but I mean in terms of the mental physicality, man, because obviously when you lead the movement, you know, obviously, and you start to speak out against it, you know, you start to get an onslaught of insults, you know, hate mail, you know, people threatening you or whatever the case is. So you do a lot of that. And so, you know, obviously through the grace of God, you know, to be mentally tough for it. Because other than that, man, it breaks you down. A lot of times, you know, I needed to take breaks like a week or two without doing anything related to Hebrew Israelites and then come back to it. So that's pretty much been the biggest adjustment. As far as like doing the apologetics part, I look at it kind of just similar to the, you know, how it was when I was in the camp. You know, I learned those breakdowns to go against, you know, Christians and anybody else that came against the doctrine. And now it's just, you know, reverse. Now I'm defending the faith I once tried to destroy. So, you know, similar to the Apostle Paul and his situation. So, sure. You know, so I look at that aspect of it pretty much the same. So I'd say it was more mental adjustment than anything else.
Well, I'll tell you what, you hit on something, man. And yeah, I definitely want to get into this album in a second, but I got to ask you this, because you said something I thought was pretty interesting. I'm thinking about doing a show about for those who are interested in becoming a Christian apologist and really being active in it, and just trying to maybe give some tips and things like that. You know, what would you say? You talked about the importance of taking breaks and just the mental, you know, grind that it can be, you know, for people who are out there interested in getting into apologetics. You know, maybe they want to start a YouTube page or do public ministry in their area. You know, what are some things that you would, you know, share with them that they might want to be aware of as they get into apologetics ministry?
Right. I always start off with one, you know, obviously, you know, making sure they're in the faith. Two, make sure that they understand the gospel and the apostles' doctrine, because to me that's kind of the foundation for it, at least the way I approach it. Because, you know, especially when dealing with Black Hebrew Israelites, you know, obviously they go to find little inserts from books and stuff like that to try to solidify their claims, but anything that they say, regardless of where they got it from, you know, if you understand the gospel and the apostles' doctrine, whether you know the exact, you know, response to give them in terms of, no, let's go to this scripture or this text or whatever, you'd be able to know whether or not what you're dealing with is heresy or not, simply based off the fact of comparing the gospel. So I always start with that. But then on the other end of it, obviously, you know, you want to look into the arguments that these guys make. You know, obviously that goes into knowing what, you know, what words they're looking for you to say, that kind of trigger words that kind of takes them through the precept packet. So you want to know all those little nuances and stuff that they do, because you know, they kind of do the same things over and over, but they approach it differently sometimes. And if you kind of go into it blind and think you're just going to kind of just be able to quote John 3:16 to them and shut them down, that ain't going to be enough for them. So, sure. And they're gonna run you all around the place. So you gotta be on your P's and Q's, know their arguments, at least the main ones, and then at the same time, you know, on the other end of it, I always say, you know, it's definitely it's not for everybody. You know, whether the mental drainingness of it, obviously, you know, knowing yourself, man, if you're a short, patient person, probably should pray to God for some patience before you come into it, because you're going to need it. So, yes, you know, those little, man, because, you know, it'll be way easy when dealing with them to go into the flesh, and you don't want to do that.
Right. That's good right there, man. Definitely some good advice. So, you know, with that being said, man, I definitely want to get into this album, man, the AD album. That's AD, right? Did I get it right?
Yeah. Yep.
AD, man. So I want to play a cut off the album entitled "All We Need Is Love." We want to peep that right quick, and then come back and you know, chat about it, man. Want to get your thoughts on it.
All right.
Whoa, feel the beat. All that we need is some love. Whoa, yeah. All that we need love your neighbor as yourself. Tip your head to the front side. Lean to your right side. As I look around the world, this is what I see. All the people within God's image, yeah. As I look around the world, this is what I see. All the people within His likeness, yeah. So how can we hate? Yeah. If we want peace, yeah. Oh, yeah. Feel the beat. So without faith, without hope, let's just love, not in word, but in deed. All we need is love. Yeah. All we need is love to make this world a better place. If we really want it, all we need is love.
All right, man. So that, you know, that joint is a banger right there, man. That was actually the first joint I played off your album, man. And take us into it, man. What is the inspiration behind that song right there? All We Need Is Love.
Man, musically, man, it's inspired by you know, Pharrell Happy, Justin Timberlake, Can't Stop the Feeling, that kind of summertime-ish, happy type music or whatever case where people can, enjoy it, just kind of just dance. But of course, you obviously, lace it with the gospel, or Christ sings and what it is that he's teaching us. And so that song, basically, it almost didn't go on the album. I wasn't planning on using that track, but,
really? Okay.
And so on, because usually the way my process goes, I have I started this whole process. I had probably about 20 tracks. I was like, oh man, yeah, that sounds good for the album. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use this. But then when I started getting to the actual, throwing the tracks into the sessions, trying to come up with stuff, I wasn't feeling what I was coming out with. So I ended up actually scrapping all the beats. I took all of them out the folder and recreated all the tracks. The only track that's not recreated is the All We Need Is Love track, because that was an older track that I had and I ended up using it. But everything else is from restarting the whole production process. And so I thought about the Pharrell Happy thing, and I was like, man, I want to kind of have a video similar like that. People just kind of random places dancing, enjoying the track, and the hook came, man, and that was pretty much history, man. And the Brother Jesus of the Word taught me how to use a talk box, and that was all she wrote right there.
Shout out to Jesus the Word, man. That's what's up, man. That's definitely what's up, So, you talked about a little bit the process, with this album. Sounded like there was some trial and error going on there, Let me take a step back for a second. Looking at the entirety of the album, let's start with the title, AD, right?
Right.
What's the inspiration behind the title? And bring us into maybe some of the things that's kind of going on in your life that, flows throughout this music that you've given to people.
Right. The title, obviously, coming out of the Black Hebrew Israelites movement, if you hear AD after anything, it's usually in reference to 70 AD. And what Rome was ransacked. And so I don't know exactly where my mind was at the time to use AD, but I know that when it came to mind, I thought about, obviously the doctrines and stuff that we had learned there, consider, talking about the AD periods, whether, 70 AD or, the whole Dark Ages thing that we were taught. And when I thought about AD, I'm like, man, I like that title. What will it stand for? And then, a couple of days later, After Deception came to mind. And I was like, man, that's tight right there. So, I went with that title because the album itself is the first album that I've done since coming out of the movement fully. I had, between the project and this one, I had the MIM Music is Medicine project, but that was an EP, and I still have remnants of the doctrine on me. If you listen to that project, I actually stopped selling that project, but and so this is the first project I'm fully out, fully in the gospel, no remnants of the doctrine, and so I thought it was a fitting title, and going into the project, I know that especially with my Jada Producer, for those that may not know, I got 2 YouTube accounts. I got the Brother J page and the Jada Producer page where all my music is housed. Right. And there's a lot of people that started me on that page that don't even know I'm outside the movement. They don't even know, bro. They have no idea. And so this is like almost, and so they don't even know what went down. And so I knew eventually at some point I need to address that crowd. And so that's why I put that intro on the album regarding the movement and why and all that type of stuff. And so they would know, man. And but the album itself, though, even though it's called AD After Deception, the focus wasn't so much on the deception itself. That I just kind of left it at the intro. But if you listen to the rest of the album, I don't really talk much more about the movement because I focus more on the after part of it. Coming out of deception to the light of the gospel. And so all the rest of the songs are focused on Christ and what He's done and all those things, man, that gives Him all the glory. So so that's what you'll realize, when you listen to the project, man.
Got you. Now, one thing that struck me, about the project is just the instrumentation, man. There's a lot of layers. I can tell like the feel of the music is very intentional. I can see kind of what you're aiming at, and I think that's pretty dope. And I'm kind of wondering, like, if you compare this album to projects that you've had in the past, Was anything different without this album in terms of your artistic process?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is that if you listen to compare it to the Ties and Fringes to the MIM, this track is more lively. One thing I heard about the middle project, MIM, obviously doing that transitional point in life. Some people thought it was a little dark or kind of down it or something, But yeah, I mean, the emotion always comes out in the music anyway. So that was the space I was at that time. But and then when you listen to Ties and Fringes, obviously you hear the hatred of the doctrine and stuff come through that, and the pride, and so this project, compared to those or whatever cases, musically wise, it's way more upbeat. You can kind of feel the joyness in the music, if that makes sense. I've heard a couple people say that.
Sure.
And then just vocally wise, man, I think it was probably one of my better vocal projects. Just when the harmonies are stacking and down to the instrumentation and stuff. So I'm definitely way proud of this project, man, compared to the other two, man.
Absolute, man. That's dope, man. That's dope. So I want to cue up another joint right quick. But before I do, you said something interesting. Just talking about the joy that you had in this project and how it really spills over. Just I guess from the transformation that's going on in you into the music, right?
Right.
I think that right there in of itself is kind of a witness. I'm trying to formulate my question because I think it's something powerful there. But when you think about the Hebrew Israelites who may be listening to this show right now, and if they are, I'm sure I'll get hate mail from them because I always do when I bring them up. But how would you describe that joy? It may be difficult for somebody like myself who's never been in the movement. You see what I'm saying? To describe that type of shift. How do you describe that joy? And that difference between now and when you were in the movement.
Right. In the movement, the joy that I had was in the knowledge of, what I thought was, my nationality or ethnic, culture group. And with that being the case, anybody that would come against it or whatever case is obviously it leads to great, especially when they bring up some information that might seem like it's trumping something that you believe regarding your ethnic heritage or whatever. It always led to hate and just never nothing that, now that I understand in terms of the fruits of the spirit. So the hate always lied in me. Always into, my culture or I'm black, God's black, got woolly hair. It always went to that.
Right.
But now obviously the joy that I find is in Christ, not in myself, not in any ethnic heritage, not into any nationality or anything like that. And for a lot of the brothers that, and sisters that hear me say that, they don't like that. But that's the case.
Right.
And, so that's one major thing in terms of the joy, is who is in, myself versus in Christ. And, I think it spills up into everything, obviously, because like I said, the emotion comes through in the music, man. And so, that's the main refocus. Also, obviously at that time I didn't know the gospel. I was under a perverted one. And so, but now understanding the gospel of Christ as the apostles taught it, bring great joy, man, just to know, the goodness of God's mercy, man. And, man, and, just understanding the plight that man was in. I didn't understand that, before. So all those things, man, kind of combine together into that joy that I now have in Christ. And, hopefully people feeling that in the music, man.
Dope, man. Dope. Amen. So, I want to get into this next joint, which actually is my favorite so far, is I Can't Hear You. That's my joint right there, Yeah. I was listening to that with the wife and whatever earlier. And, she I think right now, this is the first time she's heard you, actually, when I played it earlier. And you already got a new fan. So,
man.
so you're doing all right here at the Coleman household, bro. You're doing good. You're doing all good. Right. But talk to us a little bit about I Can't Hear You, and in terms of what that song is about, what inspired it, and then we'll go into the track.
Right. So I Can't Hear You. Well, I'll put it this way. For me, the way I worded it or formulated the track was to leave it more general so that, any brother or sister in whatever situation the song would be able to apply to them. For me personally, During this time of making the project, obviously, you know, and doing the Apologetics at the same time while working on the album, you get a lot of hate mail, you know, a lot of comments, a lot of you a coon, and you know, all the other stuff they call me.
Of course.
And so this song's kind of directed to the believers who, whether they're former Black Hebrew Israelites and getting a lot of hate mail, whether they be just Christians in general, and we see the memes and stuff and attacks on the church that happens online all the time. The noise that's generated, you know, that Jesus is pagan because of letter J, you know, all that stuff, man. People that we see all the time, man. A lot of noise. Sometimes it bothers brothers and sisters, subverts their souls. And so this song is basically encouraging them, man. Hey, let that noise go, and one ear out the other. You know, in the pre-chorus, I talk about, you know, no reeling for real and continue with faith and watch that noise flee. You know, just hitting on the words of Christ and then playing on that whole one ear out the other thing. You know, we hear it, but let it go in one ear out the other, and don't, you know, meditate on that stuff, continue in faith, and keep applying the commands of Christ, and we'll be all right, man. So that's what I Can't Hear You is mainly about, where it was inspired from. And, you know, I love the Motown era, so that's where that kind of doo-wop-ish feeling comes from.
All right, I see that.
And so, yeah, man, so, yeah.
Dope, man. Let's go ahead and check it out.
The negative talk every day, just because people know they can, and so they're gonna talk every night and day. And if you think they're gonna stop, you'll be waiting for a while. So let that noise go in one ear and out of the other. Yeah, let that noise go in one ear and out of the other. And don't give a care. Let that noise go in one ear and out of the other. Yeah, no railing for railing, continue in faith and watch that noise flee. I can't hear you. Where the noise at now? I can't hear you. Where you go at now? I can't hear you. Where the noise at now? I can't hear you. Where you go at now? I can't hear you. Watch how you walk every day, so they won't have nothing true to say. Let your light shine every night and day, so when the Lord comes, you won't be put to shame. Oh, so let that noise go in one ear and out of the other. Yeah, let that noise go in one ear and out of the other. And don't give a care. Oh, let that noise go in one ear and out of the other. Yeah, no railing for railing, continue in faith and watch that noise flee. I can't
Yeah, man, I love that joint right there, bro. I love that joint right there, man. It's tough right there. And you know, it's interesting. It may sound kind of crazy, but it actually kind of took me back to my childhood a little bit. You know, and what I mean by that is, you know, I grew up in church. You know, I was a kid. I was in the choir for a while. You know, I would go to school. I was like the only kid who, you know, wasn't cussing and, you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, I was the church kid. You know, and sometimes that's not easy. You know, I think at an early age, you know, the enemy works through, you know, bullies and just other kids to try to pressure you to think that, you know, Christianity ain't cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, even going back to elementary school, I mean, I'm having like flashbacks, you know what I'm saying? You know, but, you know, I think the thing is, you know, you do have to have a tenacity about yourself, you know, that you're just going to stick with Christ no matter what, man, and just be encouraged to do so. You know, I know when I was in college, I never forget, you know, a minister at a Bible study said, if you're not moving towards Christ, you're moving away from him, you know, and just that simple saying kept me, you know, throughout my college years, you know, continuing to press for Christ and kept me out of a lot of trouble where otherwise I might have got into it, you know. So just the message is so powerful, man, being able to tune out the world and know that regardless of what other people have to say about you, you know, we find our value in Christ first and foremost, man, you know, you know. But, you know, I want to ask you a question, man. It's something that occurred to me as I was listening to the song earlier, you know. You've done a lot of work over the last year and a half. You've put out like 1 billion videos. Like between you, G-Con, and Faithful, y'all cats, man, y'all be killing YouTube. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't care. I'm getting a notification like every 5 seconds. I'm like, G-Con is live. You know, Brother Jay is live. Faithful to God is live. I'm like, dang, yo, these guys like they stay live, bro. You know what I'm saying? But you know, talk about, you know, with all the ministry. Let's talk about some of the successes, man. You know, do you have some testimonies, you know, or have people reached out to you, you know, left the movement, and, you know, how have folks responded to the ministry?
Yeah, man. A lot of people have reached out. And I'll just talk about, you know, that reached out to me personally. I know people probably reached out to the brothers, but to me personally, a lot of people reached out, you know, to say, man, you know, I found you on YouTube, blah, blah. I was thinking about going into, you know, IUIC or whatever the camp we was talking about at the time in the video. But, you know, then I watched this video, man. I ain't going up in there, man. I just want to thank you. You know, just got people, you know, listening or whatever cases keep doing it. I've had some people reach out where, you know, whether it be a spouse of someone who's in the movement or whatever case is, and they want to set up, you know, meetings or whatever case is. So I've, you know, behind the scenes, you know, just to help show them or walk them through the script, show them that, you know, what they're in is false. I've actually got in more recent actual members who's still in there call me and or text me and say, you know, they're starting to see things as well that I've been bringing out whatever cases, and they just, you know, help guidance in terms of how to go about it, you know, when it's time to leave. And I'm letting them know how it's going to be when they leave. You know, kind of just let them know, hey, when it happens, it's going to happen. It's going to happen this way. You know, pretty much be prepared for it. And, you know, your conscience is going to be against you, man, if you stay in there any longer, because, you know, you already started to see these things, scripturally speaking, doctrinal-wise, that is false. And you stay in there, man, while they're teaching that, your conscience will be bearing witness against you. So, you know, I've had that. I mean, I'm talking about people like even in leadership positions, man. And so, yeah, man. So I'm halfway surprised about that. I'm thinking it's more like kind of members just walking through, maybe. But some actual people have reached out, and so you know, so it's been a kind of mixture, man, between people who are still in the movement, now that just came out, thinking about going in, a spouse of somebody in there, or actual leaders that's still in there right now, but seeing the things that we bringing out, they're seeing that stuff start to show its face. So they're starting to, man, people starting to really realize what's going on, man.
Man, that's so dope, man. That's so dope. And the reason why I asked that question is because I think that, you know, right now, urban apologetics, I don't even like that term, but, you know, urban apologetics is largely internet based. I would like to see it get to the point where, you know, local churches are having regular, you know, sessions, whether it be conferences or just somebody, you know, in their local church who's well versed in apologetics, addressing these things. I would like to see it get to that point. Shout out to Pastor Tim Allison and Isaiah Robinson, because they're about that life for real. But, you know, with that being said, sometimes it's so easy to just kind of not have a feel for the type of impact that we're having. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're making videos, and you might hop on some threads and deal with with some of this deception. It's so easy, and I think let me get your thoughts on this. I think it can get discouraging at times, because you may not necessarily face to face see the impact of what you're doing. Have you experienced that in terms of just not feeling like you're having an impact?
Right. I've definitely felt that. Sometimes, after hangouts and stuff like that, you'd be like, man, I don't know if the brothers and sisters listening, because in the live chats, people be carrying on side conversations, so it seems like nobody listening.
Right.
So, so I definitely felt like that. But what keeps it going, man, is to know, we're called to be seed sowers. And, with seed, planting, you plant the seed in the ground, but you don't see what's taking place under the ground.
Yeah.
When you water it, you pour the water on the ground. You don't see where the water go in the ground. So, there's an element there where you're going to be clueless, but you're just called to be a seed sower. And then eventually when the seed grows or whatever, somebody will reach out and say, man, I just want you to know, man, that man, people are listening to you down here, whatever the case is, man, keep it up, and all that kind of stuff. And that little bit, man, just that one call from somebody or email, give you a great boost, to continue in the work that you called in, man. But it's definitely that element of, kind of like, man, is anybody listening? Is we having any impact? But that's that portion where you actually planting that seed, man, and don't know what's going on under the ground.
Exactly right, man. And I've experienced it myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, there be times where I'm up like 3 a.m, 4, sometimes all night working on an article or, cleaning up a podcast or something like that. And they'd be like, man, does anybody care?
Right.
Like, am I the only one listening to my show? That kind of stuff. It's like, I be like,
yeah, man. You get me like, yeah, man.
Yeah, man. And so the thing is, you share that junk, you get like 2 likes. It'd be like, dang, bro, can I get a 3rd like on the joint?
Right.
But but then at the same time, like you said, man, people will hit you up, in the email and that kind of thing, and it just be like, hey, this really changed my life. I mean, I've had people say, that either I or a loved one gave my life to Christ because they heard this show and that kind of stuff, and you can't put a dollar amount on that, man. You can't put a value on that. That's a soul that's coming to the kingdom, and so I think that some people that I run into who are interested in urban apologetics, they think that you're just going to hop on Facebook or just hop in some debate and just murder somebody in debate, and then it's going to be like a happily ever after type of thing, where you just.
I'll tell y'all right now, especially dealing with the sect that we deal with. I've only really dealt with the Black Hebrew Israelite sect, but just dealing with that. For those that think about dealing with them and jumping in dialogues, and like, man, I'm gonna kill them. Cause obviously we have the truth, but at the same time, just know, one, who you're dealing with, and just know, even if you got in there and confounded them, you're going to still get memed. You're still going to get, way more shares. That Christian got tore up. You're going to get all of that. So, I mean, it ain't going to be like, you're going to, win the crowd over and everybody be like, wow, I didn't think of that. It ain't going to be like that.
Right. I mean, I really enjoy some of the apologetics movies that have come out recently. I'm not gonna name them out, but I mean, just some of the apologetics movies that are out there now, and I think it's dope. But sometimes I think that it gets depicted as if you're just gonna have like this big stand down with an atheist or a Hebrew Israelite, or with an unbeliever of some sort. And then it's just gonna be this big epic moment. And most of the time, it's not like that. Most of the time, it's exactly what you're saying. Like, you're sowing these seeds, you're staying consistent. You're persevering. Because I mean, shoot, you got a personal life. You know what I'm saying? You got a wife and kids. You know what I'm saying? You got bills to pay. So if you staying up till 1 a.m. doing the show, dog, you got to get up and work. I mean, I don't know what you do for a living. Honestly, I don't know if you're full-time music or whatever, but you got things to do just like everybody else. You see what I'm saying? And so it's not always. It's like Kobe Bryant said. I can't remember who he said it to. He was like, "Dog, you wasn't with me shooting in the gym." You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. But that being said, the glory isn't for us. It's for God. That's the whole point. We're not doing this so we can feel good about ourselves and, just, mash up a bunch of unbelievers. That's not what it's about. It's about, getting out there, being used of God, allowing him to do his thing, and then seeing people come to the light of the glorious gospel, man.
Right. And then also to realize that, you always want to keep reality in perspective. I know, as men, when I say men, I mean like literally like man. I ain't talking about like men by sex, but man in general, is that especially when when you do care about somebody or care about a group of people, you want to see all of them. I want to see all of them come out. That's the desire.
Yeah, sure, sure.
But the reality of the situation, and I think especially for new people that's coming in doing apologetics and stuff, is to keep in retrospect the reality of the scriptures that many you're going to have way more that reject and mock you than those that hearken to the gospel. And so if you go into it thinking that you're going to like shame somebody in a debate and win the crowd over, then you're going to cause yourself a great deal of stress and worry. Because and also carry yourself into pride and all that kind of stuff. So you always want to keep it in the reality of, man, I'm just sowing the seed. I know that these guys are heresy, and yes, I'm going to expose the false doctrine. But at the same time, I'm not going into it expecting for all the Black Hebrew Israelites I'm talking to be like, oh man, Brother Jay brought out a good point. I expect them to make memes and mock and all that other stuff, because that's the first response. We've gotten a lot of brothers who say, man, when we have conversations with them, they mock us and strong and wrong, all that stuff then.
Absolutely.
But inwardly, they're pricked. And then later on, they come and be like, man, yeah, right. So, expect that, man, and then that way, when you do see the memes and stuff, you're not as offended by them because you respect it.
Right. Well, yeah, as we close out here, there's a couple questions. Just, I guess like a 2-part question rather that I wanted to ask you. Kind of along those lines, man. Like from the time that you were, having been in the Hebrew Israelite movement and now being out of it, being on the apologist side, have you noticed a change amongst the Hebrew Israelites in terms of their response to urban apologetics? Because I think it's just my opinion from the outside looking in. It's like for a long time they just kind of went unchecked. Like nobody was really dealing with them like that from an apologetic standpoint, and not just them. I mean, but the Moors and the Comedics as well. But have you seen a shift in terms of their awareness of these urban apologists? And has there been how would you describe the response, from the Hebrew Israelite side to the urban apologists?
Right. So yeah, it's definitely been a shift response. Just like how you said, man. You guys. If people go search on YouTube, backing up, you'll see a lot of the Black Hebrew Israelites on the streets, specifically the one Westerners. Those are the ones, that obviously when you type in online, them are the ones you're going to see in the streets. But, you see them always gloating and, I dare any Christian to come up right now and prove us wrong. And, y'all Christians scared. Y'all, nobody can come against this truth, and all kind of stuff. So a lot of time, like unchecked. And then slowly but surely, apologetics groups started coming up, dealing with them. And, at first, I guess it wasn't taken as serious, but I think because it's been an influx of not just Christians getting up there and saying, oh, John, I'm just throwing this out here, like John 3:16, God so loved the world. But literally, people who are getting up knowing these guys, I think it bothers them more that Christian apologists know their doctrine.
Right, okay.
I think that bothers them more, know their doctrines, know how they interpret scripture, know where they're going to go when they say certain things, and are already ready to rebuttal them. Not just rebuttal them, because, they'll love for you to come in the streets because they can control that. But the fact that we're going, hey, let's sit down. Let's have a dialogue about this doctrine. And I think that's where the response has kind of been wishy-washy, and it's kind of turned into a kind of this whining thing, where it went from, nobody can come against us, nobody can come against this truth. We get any Christian, now that the Christians are rising up, Christian apologists rising up, it's turning into, well, why y'all don't do that with the Jewish people? Why y'all don't do that with the Muslims? All this type of, which actually, if they open their eyes up, we actually do. But
yeah, absolutely.
But they think that, we don't. And so it turned into kind of this whining thing. And I find it interesting enough that and this depends on the camp, but a lot of the more predominant camps leaders are not wanting to have dialogues with the apologists that already know their doctrines. Every once in a while, rare. Most of the time, we're dealing with a lot of the ones that's not part of camps, and a lot of times we do deal with a camp. It's normally like, Sakari or ISUPK or something like that. But somebody like IUIC, I know GOCC has done one like with James White and Inwell both times, but they're more rare, and so and they're real strategic as to who they will debate. They want to get the Creflo dollars and stuff, like the people who are oblivious to what they teach. But someone, obviously like ourselves and stuff, they're more harder to come by or agree to have a dialogue. So I've seen that kind of shift there. But I think that's going to change because I actually wanted to comment on it earlier when you mentioned it in terms of the churches and stuff like that, kind of jumping on the bandwagon and having conferences, is because that shift is starting to take place, man. I've had churches reach out to me from, New York, different locations, want me to come out that way to help to, basically get their church and, kind of up to date or speed on how to deal with these guys. And like I was telling you behind the scenes on April 10th, I was invited to do a conference on the Black Hebrew Israelites, my experience coming in, hitting on some doctrine and answer questions on April 10th at Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas. So, it's definitely, that shift is definitely happening, man. People are seeing how big of a deal this is. And I think that through that, we may be able to now start to have these little dialogues with these higher up leader guys of these schools, because right now they're protecting us because they're looking at us as nothing. So, we'll see, man. But regardless of whether or not they agree or not, that shift is definitely taking place, man, and people are getting prepared to deal with them guys on a much bigger scale.
That's dope, man. Let me ask you this kind of as a follow-up. What would you say it should be our area of focus? Like, how, like, as urban apologists dealing with this stuff, what are some areas that we need to focus on most so we can be most effective?
I'd say specifically when dealing with the one Westers side of the more screamer groups, I always want to focus on the gospel, but because of their doctrine and their mindsets within that movement sect, everything's so carnal and fleshly, and it's just so bad that really the way that a lot of times is to go through the very scriptures that they use to beguile people and show people that them interpretations are wrong. So, like, for example, one of the main ones that every time I bring it out, brothers and sisters are always like, I gotta, where that scripture at, man? I ain't know that. Is anytime we touch on Deuteronomy 28, I always like to focus on verse 48 with the yokes of iron around the neck, because one of the main questions that they ask is, who else been through these curses besides the blacks, Hispanic, Native Americans? Who else had yokes of iron around their necks? And they use this as this identification marker. But to show people that actually in the Bible, God literally says that he put yokes of iron around the neck of all nations, a lot of times cuts that down. So doing things like that, obviously going into the underlying text of verses, of the very verses that they used to beguile people, whether it be Isaiah 1 and 3, whether it be Revelations 1:14, I find that to probably be the more effective way, because if I go at them gospel first, they'll just say, oh, don't come to me with that white man Christianity, and they just like shut their ears off. Okay. But when dealing with the more moderate side, usually these are the people who are not part of the camps. They're believe me, you'll know them, because when you talk about Black Hebrew Israelites, they'll be the ones that come in the comment section and be like, not every Hebrew Israelite is like this. Those are the ones that's not part of camp. And so those guys sometimes are more receptive with us just starting at the gospel and just focusing at the gospel. And so, because some of them don't hold as strongly to the, they believe they're Israelites, but they don't hold to it with such rigorous force like the one Westers do, that it's easier to start at the gospel and then to go backwards. And so now that we know, here's the gospel, and we know there's no lie in the truth, there's no deceit found in Christ's mouth. Now let's go back, look at Deuteronomy 28, and now let me show you why they lied to you in these scriptures, and that they're not identification marker. And so, it's different methods depending on who you're dealing with. But those kind of the ways that I at least go about it.
Got you. All right, so I want to end out here, man. First of all, I want to say I appreciate you, brother, for coming on, man. Definitely enjoyed the conversation. Definitely enjoying the music, and I want to give the people something to go with. It's actually called "I'm Gonna Wait." So tell us a little bit about that, and then we're gonna play that joint.
Yeah, man. People can actually watch me working on this track. I did a live stream while I was working on this song. You guys can go to my Jada Producer page on YouTube and actually see this. And so this song was basically, when you guys hear it, inspired by Michael Jackson and Teddy Riley, music from the New Jack Swing era. And so I went with trying to mimic Michael Jackson the way he would sing for this song. And because I was doing it, and of course, mimicking Michael Jackson, your voice is a little bit more high pitched. And this actually happened. This is how the brother K-Dub came into the picture on the song that's featured on it. He had just dropped his Hebrew Israelite song. For those that might didn't hear that, man, y'all go check that out on the Tru channel, TRU. And this is right after he did that, and I heard his rap voice, and I was like, man, that would work perfect on this track. And so I reached out to him. We was going to actually work on another track for my album, but I ended up not using that instrumental. So I was like, man, I need to find another song for him. So this one worked out perfectly, and so it's called "I'm Gonna Wait." It's basically, obviously giving glory to God and talking about and using the different patriarchs of faith and how they was met with different adversities, but because of their faith, they were saved. So the same like them, I'm gonna be like Abraham. I'm gonna be like Rahab. I'm gonna be like Daniel. I'm gonna be like David. Despite what happens around me, I'm gonna wait on my Lord, whether it's for for him to take vengeance, for him to deliver me in whatever fashion he sees please, or just to give me the strength to endure whatever I'm going through. So that's what that song is geared towards, man. But of course, pure Jada Producer style. We gotta, put some Jada Producer-ness on it.
Jada Producer-ness, yeah, no doubt. No. All right, we're gonna play that joint as it rolls out, man. And matter of fact, before I go there, I'm a little salty with you there, bro. I'm trying to figure out how you got a whole album and didn't get your boy Scott Lane, on that joint to drop 16 or something, man. What can I do to get a collab with you, bro? I'm trying to collab with you, man. What I got to do, man? What I got to do, man? Hey. What's the hookup?
Hey, now that you done mentioned it, hey, I'm gonna let the people know right now. I had said it before that I was planning on doing a part 2 to this project. I was planning on doing that and releasing it later this year. But now that you done mentioned it, bro. Hey, man, yeah, I got you, bro. I got you.
You got me, bro? Okay, yeah. I got you on tape, bro. I got you on record.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
So
if I'm not on that joint, I'm gonna run this album. I'm gonna run this episode about 20 times a day, just so everybody know that I was supposed to be on that part 2 project, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Right? Hey, yeah, you gotta do that little troll thing they be doing to us, man. When they chop the little part up,
bro. Bro, you think the Hebrew Israelites is bad? Bro, if I don't get on this hour, bro, it's about to be a problem. It's going to be a problem.
Yeah, all right, bro. Yeah.
No, man, so we're going to play the joint. I'm going to wait. Of course, all the listeners out there, I love y'all, man. Thanks for riding with Tru-ID once again. I have my man, Brother Jay, on. Appreciate you, Brother Jay, for hopping on with us, brother. And,
bro,
man. Absolutely, man. So, with that said, love y'all, man. There's another episode in the books. Peace.
No matter what they say, no matter, they won't destroy our faith. Because of that,
believers unite.
Spirit, I can live right. And I gotta thank Him for that. I'ma keep trusting, believing. I'ma be like Job, yeah. No matter what comes my way, I'm going away. I'm going away. I'm going away. Oh my Lord, I'ma keep trusting, believing. I'ma be like Abraham. No matter what comes my way, I'm going away. I'm going away. I'm going away. Oh my Lord, when life brings me down, when it brings me down, He's my strength to endure it all. Apart from Him, I am nothing. Oh, but with Him, I am something. And I gotta thank Him for that. I'ma keep trusting, believing. I'ma be like Daniel. No matter what comes my way, I'm going away. I'm going away. I'm going away. Oh my Lord, I'ma keep trusting, believing. I'ma be like Rahab. No matter what comes my way, I'm going away. I'm going away. I'm going away.
Yeah, I was reading in the book of Psalms. Wait on the Lord, take heart and be strong. 'Tis His name who I'm seeking on. Yeah, you know that His word that I lean upon. No matter the season, no matter the reason, I'm thankful for the bleeding of Jesus. I need Him any roadblock, I won't stop. He got me on lock, but you know it's not by my strength. Yeah, no foul, a long trial, by His grace I never deny Him. He's faithful in His providing. Yeah, my God, He ain't never failed. Saved me, now it's heading to hell. With eagerness in our hearts, with patience, no matter in our temptation or frustration, whatever you're facing, our Lord God, He is very gracious, and He never changes. His word, yeah, says the wait, and we can trust on Him, cause you know He's great. Cause I ain't got no other hope, and where else should I ever go? His word, yeah, says the wait, and we can trust on Him, cause you know He's great. Cause I ain't got no other hope, and where else should I ever go? Brother J, take us home.
I'ma keep trusting, believing.